What's up guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, and as usual it's time for more Reddit posts, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet and let's get into it. Dream wedding? Get the guests to pay for it. Not my story, but via a friend. A friend, Jack, 36, was invited to a wedding, the wedding of Sophie, 35, and Jeff, 36, in the UK. Jack is good friends with Jeff and has known him for a long time. The bride, Sophie, is from the US. Jack RSVP'd to the wedding, and was delighted that his girlfriend had been invited too, although she didn't know the couple. A few months later, Jack received an email that stated, "Thank you for RSVPing to our wedding, and thank you for helping us have the wedding of our dreams." At the bottom of the email, Jack saw a link that said, "Click here for payment." He assumed this was a link to the honeymoon fund and went about his day. A few days later, he thought he would just have a look to see what the link was, and then it took him through to a payment page that requested just shy of £2,000 for attendance at the wedding. He assumed this must be a scam, so called the wedding venue to let them know. The venue told him that Sophie and Jeff thank you for your contribution to enable them to have their dream wedding. Obviously only informed of this after he had RSVP'd yes. Jack was astounded, but because he cares about his friend, decided to empty his entire savings to attend the wedding. But in hindsight realized the invite of his partner was probably not as generous as he originally realized. Jack then felt that because he spent so much money to attend, he would rinse the free food and booze and get the most expensive stuff possible. Cut to the wedding, the drinks were not included. Jack and partner had a couple of drinks, and the bill was about £30. At the end of the wedding, when checking out, Jack went to pay his bar bill. The bill was the £30 plus nearly £200. He was then informed by the venue that the bride and groom had requested every guest be charged this amount as a tip for the venue. No, this is in the UK where tipping the venue is not a thing that happens, nor does charging guests for attendance for that matter. But does that happen anywhere? Jack had no money left from rinsing his savings for the wedding, so he had to negotiate a lower tip amount with the venue. After the wedding, Jack checked the cost of the venue, and calculated that the cost had been spread amongst the guests, but not the bride and groom, so they basically got a free wedding out of it. Not only did the bride and groom pass on the costs of a ridiculously priced venue to the guests, after people had RSVP'd, essentially putting the venue above guest attendance, but then they passed on the cost of a tip to the guests without telling them, as a required charge on checkout. I've never heard of anything so entitled in my life. Edit to add, confirmation from Americans in the comments that this is not a US thing. It's also not a UK thing. It's a confirmed entitled people thing. If I were in that situation, as soon as I saw the payment screen asking for £2,000, I would have just said no way am I attending that wedding. I probably wouldn't even be bothered to cancel the RSVP either. They don't deserve that courtesy if they're not even going to tell you that £2,000 is required before you RSVP. It's actually pretty surprising that anyone even showed up in the first place. What a total scam. Boss forced me to give away my hard-earned money, so I sabotaged her bonus. Every year, the company I worked for has a huge fundraising campaign. They solicit from all employees to voluntarily contribute towards charities directly from their paycheck pre-tax. You are encouraged and very heavily pressured to donate to pre-selected charities of their choice, in smaller amounts per month for the year or one lump sum. Think lots of email reminders and signage all over company walls. Ploys of having your name entered for prize drawings. Didn't matter how much you contribute, although prizes were always won by company executives and leadership. The company had running totals for departments of how many people were contributing. They wanted 100% participation from all departments. It was supposed to be private and anonymous, and only show numbers. I quickly learned it wasn't as anonymous or voluntary as advertised. If one or two people were holding back, they were usually approached by the administrator and pressured to participate. What's really strange is the administrator of my department at the time, who was usually very stoic and stern, became giddy about the charity campaign. It was weird and raised alarms. One year I was struggling hard, so I wasn't going to contribute. I was so broke. But here comes admin lady into the office suite. We are almost to 100% participation. Claps, giddy squee. She looks around and starts to question each person. She was eyeballing me the whole time, trying to subtly make her way to me. She gets to my desk. "Have you made your contribution yet?" Without thinking, should have just told her it was personal. I told her I was still considering which charity. She pulls a chair over to my desk with a sob story from one of the charities and how the money helps those in need. She asked me to pull up the charity website and literally walked me through entering my contribution. So as a good little young naive worker, I did as I was basically being forced to do and contributed a minimal $24 a year at $2 a month donation on my measly salary. I made our department reach 100% participation. Who cares, right? The next year, I purposely waited until the last second to make my contribution to see if I got the same one-on-one chat with admin lady. Sure enough, here she comes with the same sob story she has memorized and would baby talk me through making my contribution while she watched. I soon became her target to get rid of. She was out for my job, so she separated me from the people I got along well with, including my direct boss, and made me report directly to her. I knew I had to get out of there quickly or I'd lose my job. I applied for positions and wound up transferring to another department within a few weeks. It ended up being an amazing move and one of my favorite positions to date. In this new department, they organized and ran multiple company, city, and county-wide events, one of the biggest being the charity campaign for the whole company. I brought up to my new coworkers how incredibly weird my previous admin lady was at that time of year. They said of course she wanted 100% participation. Admins get a bonus when their departments are 100% participation. You can bet your sweet rear ends I started telling everyone in my previous department about that little tidbit. The next year, that department had one of the lowest participation efforts. Being that I was in a better place in life and actually liked my new department and leadership, I began willingly contributing, because the new admin would take that bonus and buy everyone lunch, or some form of thanks. Karen accuses me of kidnapping my daughter. Okay, so this happened over this past summer. We just found out my wife is pregnant with our first biological child. We thought it was impossible, but here we are. So in celebration, we decided we would take our other kids, who we adopted, to a theme park of their choosing and kinda splurge on it. They unanimously chose Disney World. So we booked our hotel to stay at Disney and paid to do everything. We stayed for 2 weeks. It was an amazing trip. Well, if you discount the crazy lady that decided I was kidnapping my daughter. During our time in the park, I had to go through all the rides and attractions with my son and daughter, as my wife could not do them. Now for context, my wife and I are white and our daughter is Haitian. As another note, we speak French in our house, because that's our daughter's first language. Also, my wife and I are multilingual, so it's not hard for us. So we just got done with the ride and I text my wife where we are and that it's time for lunch. We begin walking to my wife, planning on meeting her halfway. It was at this point she sees Princess Tiana and she goes nuts. She runs up to the cast member and asks if she can take a picture, and then she runs up to me and begs me to take her picture. My daughter and the cast member talk while I pull out my phone and text my wife where we are, before taking some pictures. I take a couple of pictures and that's when it happened. A woman demanded to know why I was taking pictures of them and started to accuse me of being a creep. I told her that's my daughter. She then screeches, "No, she's not. You two look nothing alike." I now look at her cross and say, "Now what the hell is that supposed to mean?" It was during this exchange my daughter runs up behind me and asks in French if we can just leave as the woman is scaring her. I respond with yes and we just walk off. This psycho then grabs my daughter. When I heard my daughter scream, I lost it. I grabbed the woman and practically threw her off my daughter and yelled, "Get off my daughter, you bitch." My daughter hid behind me as the Karen sat on the ground. Now we drew a crowd well before she even touched my daughter, and some people actually came to my aid to stop the woman from rushing me. Security showed up as my wife was getting there. The cast member spoke to security and the Karen was taken away. We talked to a park representative while my daughter got to talking to Princess Tiana again. It was then the cast member came up to us and apologized for that ever happening. Princess Tiana spoke to the representative and then they asked us to follow them. We went to a gift shop and they gave my daughter a Princess Tiana costume. My daughter was thrilled and that was officially the best vacation ever to her. The funny thing is, we saw the costume earlier and told my daughter we would grab it on the way out. She told the cast member about how excited she was that she would get one later that day. My daughter wore that costume all day and got to have lunch with Tiana. Sorry, Karen, you made our vacation better than ever. Refund me because I didn't win. I work the customer service desk at a grocery store. Recently, the Powerball was at almost $2 billion. I had a gentleman come to my window and purchase almost $1,200 in tickets. He made a joke I've heard a million times over. If I don't win, I get my money back, right? He even said this while laughing and smiling. I gave him the generic polite smile and he went on his way. They draw the numbers the following day and I hear that someone in California won. I show up to my shift and it seems to be a normal shift. That is, until the gentleman comes back. Despite that one of my coworkers has offered him assistance, he said he wanted to talk with me. I finished with the customer I was with and waved him over. Before I could greet him, he slammed down his pile of tickets, receipt included, and proceeded to tell me, "Okay, Missy, I didn't win anything. You said if I didn't win, I would get my money back, so here I am for my full refund." I was slightly taken aback by this. I was trying to see if he was being serious or not. After a moment, I realized he was. I attempted to explain to him that regardless of winning or not, all sales on any lottery tickets are final. He started screaming, No, you said yesterday, if I didn't win, I get my money back. Now refund me before I call the cops and tell them you stole all my money." I tried calmly explaining to him that I understand that he is upset that he lost, but no one had stolen his money, and that this is just how the lottery system works. I could see he was getting more upset and not wanting to hear what I had to say. This is where it became one of those I don't get paid enough moments. He had started getting more and more upset, so he decided to start knocking over a nearby display of candy and glass soda and beer bottles while shouting about how we had stolen his money. I had enough of this and called for both management and security. Management ended up calling the police while security detained him, and he ended up causing more than $350 in damages. It was definitely an interesting one. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. And also subscribe if you want to see more. So take care. I'll see you next time.